Hey guys, Cloud8 back with you on a different series of Let's Play critically review series here for you. Took some time away. The first one we did was Ultimate General Gettysburg, and we're gonna take a little bit of time away from that. Hopefully for not too long, just until the next big patch is supposed to come out and fix the main issue that we saw with it in our time together, but also add some new features and stuff. So that seems like it's pretty exciting, and I'd like to come back to that game eventually. But at this time, we're going to go ahead and take a break from that and switch over. I know I was kind of focusing on history, and I still intend to do that with some other games later on as well, but just general strategy is fun too, and Endless Space is a turn-based strategy game, for those of you that aren't aware, by Amplitude Studios. They are also the makers of Endless Legend, which was kind of the second, it came after Endless Space. So definitely an accomplished game company, at least as far as making two pretty big hits. Each one of them got generally favorable reviews from the critics, and I guess spoiler alert, I would tend to agree. I had fun with Endless Space. I think Endless Legend overall is a better 4X game, which makes sense because it was their second attempt at a game. But Endless Space is fun, and like I said earlier, I'm still traveling with the old laptop, so I can play Endless Legend on it, but honestly, I'd have to turn the graphics down so far to get a good recording that it just doesn't present the true scale and effect of the game. So maybe I'll do one of those Endless Legend reviews and Let's Plays when I get home and have a little bit better computer, so I don't have to turn the graphics all the way down. And I know graphics aren't everything, but they are a big part of it, at least for some of these games. But Endless Space Disharmony, so Endless Space originally released, and then Disharmony was like the first paid expansion for it, and added a lot of things like fighters and bombers and stuff to the fleets. So that's what I've got here. Again, purchased through Steam. So you guys can check it out there if you're interested after we take a look at it, if you haven't seen it before. So standard options here, I'm running version 1.1.51, just FYI. So look at the options, just your standard audio settings. Here I've got the music turned off because of YouTube's copyright shenanigans, but I will say this, if you haven't heard it, you can go onto YouTube and look up the full Endless Space soundtrack, which is kind of ironic to me since I feel like I might get flagged for copyright if I put the music in there. I don't know for sure, but you can look it up and listen to it if you want. And I'd recommend, like, if you don't have the game, listen to the music first, and it's actually really good. And to talk about music in a game is like, who really cares, right? Just turn it off if you don't like it. But this is actually really good, and the same thing with Endless Legends. The music is pretty top notch. Anyway, the rest of the stuff's pretty standard. No big surprises there. So yeah, full screen mode. I've got it turned. I can turn it up a little bit, I think. You can set resolution. This is my laptop. And then just generic settings that kind of tells you what it's doing as it goes. But I think we can turn it up a little bit. So we'll do that. See what it's like. Hopefully it's not too bad. And then gameplay. There's a pretty decent tutorial that kind of steps you through and shows you as you click on things in the game, what they are, what they mean, what to do inside certain menus. It's pretty solid. And then just some other options in there as well. Mods, there are some mods out there for it, none of which I've seen have been particularly interesting to me, so I've just kind of, this is just the vanilla version, if you will. It does have multiplayer. Again, I'm not a huge multiplayer person because I don't have any friends. That's not really true, but just generally not a huge multiplayer person, which is why I think we talked about with Ultimate General Gettysburg, it's important that a game has a good AI, so we'll look at how the artificial intelligence plays this game as well. And then new game, obviously, you can set up a new game. So there's a couple different sections to go through when you set up a new game, and it's fairly standard for anybody who's familiar with the 4X genre, if you will. So you can set up the shape of your galaxy. There's several different shapes to choose from, and as you hover over them, it'll kind of give you a description of what it is. So basically a Spiral 4 says it's a spiral galaxy with 4 arms, so that's okay, pretty obvious, but that brings up a point, if I can deviate and go on a tangent a little bit, that Amplitude Studios I think does a very good job with their user interface, as well as their music, but even more importantly, the music user interface. Like, you can hover over basically everything, even in these menus early on, and see exactly what it means, what it does if you change it. And I'll show you that when we get into the game too, but early on you can see, like, man, isn't this nice? What does that do? Oh, it does this. That's crucial in these kind of games, in my opinion. So we set the shape, size. Let's see. I'm gonna play with 5 total empires, including myself. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 5, including myself. So medium would be, that's about 10 systems per. Yeah, we'll do that. Yeah, we'll try medium, I guess. That's fine. Age determines the type of sun. So like the different like if you do young, hotter stars, I think they're generally more favorable for colonization. And then the flip side, old, would be colder, like blue colored stars that are I can't come up with the scientific word for it now, but generally less favorable for colonization. And normal's just like the standard. Now you can also do advanced, and you can come in here and tweak the generation even more. So star connectivity, you could say low, so there's less star lanes between stars to travel through early in the game. Galaxy density, so like you could play with we could play large, but then we could turn the density down to low, and it would scale that back by 1/3 the number of systems. So it said 68, so it would be like 31 or 2 or whatever instead. Or I'm not sorry, not 30, like 40 or some math. Wow, public math, really. So anyway, yeah, you can tweak exactly how you want things to happen in here. So we'll just kind of leave everything to default for now. So normal, medium, spiral with 5 empires. Now we can go over here and look at difficulty. I think this is kind of funny. Like the difficulty settings show you that, again, you hover over it. So easy. If this was Wellington, we'd all speak French. I don't know. That's kind of funny. A history joke there for you. So that's our history for our Endless Legend, or our Endless Space Let's Play. So we'll do normal, I guess. We're kind of keeping everything standard. So if the British had been like this, the U.S. would still be a colony. So there you go. Game speed also normal. If you change it, again, it tells you what it changes. Growth rate, that kind of stuff. And again, you can go in here and hit up some advanced options. We'll kind of keep all this to normal. Pirates, there's like pirates. A lot of people don't, from the Let's Plays that I've kind of watched, have turned those off. And the reason they do that, I think, is because they just think it's kind of an unfair setup. But I think it was part of the game design, their intent to do it that way, basically to slow down early game growth. And I don't know, but I think that's what they're trying to do. So I'm going to leave it. So now for your empire, obviously, any good 4X game has a number of standard empires that you can use, and each with their, over here you can see a description of them, and then over here on the right you can see pluses and minuses for that particular faction. So like these guys, strong allies, so they get 40% health on their ships, but they have a -10 approval bonus per per every time they break a deal diplomatically. So there's pluses and minuses for all these different factions. I think there's 11 of them, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11, yep, and then this is what you can make, so you can add, and go in here and you can create a custom faction, and it's a point system. If you're familiar with, I think Master of Orion 2 did it this way, which is like, everybody goes back to that and says that's the greatest 4X game. But anyway, you can, red is -1, so like if I do that, I get 2 extra points, right? Essentially, so it's like, now I've got -2 out of 65 to spend by taking this negative trait. Anyway, yes. So you can pick any one of the regular factions, and the benefit of doing that is that they generally they have more than 65 total points of things being spent here. In other words, when I went in here and created the clouds, I had 65 points to spend, whereas like if we looked at this guy and added up his total points, it might be 75 or something like that. And that's just a way to balance, I think, the custom race generation, which I think is fair, because you can otherwise kind of build a powerful race that's out of balance with the rest of the game. So I like the way they did that. And then you can see, we can talk about what I picked. So you have to pick, I guess I can go back in there and show you that. So you have to pick an affinity. Like if I were to add another one, I have to pick one of the main game races to base them off of, and the affinity has it's like one generic trait, basically. So I picked the Sophon race, so their generic faction trait is that if I set my tax rate from 0 to 50, I get a bonus inversely proportional to that, and that little icon there, that blue icon is research. So they're a scientific kind of faction. So say if I set my tax rate to 0%, I wouldn't make any money, but I get a 50% bonus to my research rate. So that's just their generic one that I get because I base them off of this race. And then also your ships look like their ships. But then the rest of these, excuse me, I picked basically for myself. So fast travelers, I get a little bit more speed on my ships, 20% health from strong allies, a little bit more deadly weapons, so a little bit more damage. And then on the flip side of that, optimal defense, a little bit more defense, minus 10% industry cost of improvements, so we're builders. Militarists, it costs 10% less to build ships. Businessmen, 10% more, that's the dust symbol, which is like the money. And then crowded planets, this one's pretty important. It was actually like 15 points to purchase this one, and I get one more population slot on medium, small, and tiny planets, which you'll see how that all plays out once we get into the game. So yeah, we have 4 other random empires. We're in basically a standard spiral galaxy, normal speed, normal difficulty, with our custom faction. So we're gonna go ahead and start that up and see how it works out for us. Alright, we're back into the game now. It's loaded up. I really like the background. You can zoom way out and it just looks like a spiral galaxy. It's pretty cool. I mean, not overly demanding, since I'm sitting here telling you this, running this on not a gaming laptop by any means, but it looks good, And again, when you're talking about strategy games, often graphics aren't the most important part of it, but the fact is it still looks good at the same time. So anyway, user interface stuff I talked about that I really like. These pop-ups are telling us, hey, there's this hero that's available, and heroes are like sort of like governors or fleet admirals or that kind of thing. That you get like a certain number of them, which you can look at. Here is who is available out there to hire as a commander or governor, and they kind of automatically refresh every so many turns. That being said, we don't have enough money initially to hire them. We need 20 to hire them, and we only have 10. You can see it there, so it's sort of NA for us. So these pop-ups you'll see tell us a bunch of different things, but basically you can just right-click on them to get rid of them, or left-click on them to bring up what they mean. Then down here, this tells you, hey, you've got some fleets that don't have orders. So we have 2 fleets, Alpha and Beta. That's just kind of the generic names. You start off every game of Endless Space with 2 ships in 2 different fleets. And they're named different things based on what they do and based on your faction. But Investigator, that's a scout ship. And then Procreator, that sounds maybe a little dirtier than it really is, but it's just a colony ship. So our scout ship, we want to look around, and I believe these little stars above the star system indicate that if you scout there or explore there, that you get like a discovery event kind of thing. So we'll see that. And then if you notice, this is the star line I was talking about in the settings. So these solid ones we can navigate through, and we have to navigate along those initially until we research better technology. But this one looks a little wavy. That's a wormhole. So we would need a special technology to travel through that, which we do not have yet, and neither does anyone else to start out with. So this is kind of a choke point initially in the game. So we'll explore. Let's just go up this way. And like I was telling you, so that's a red dwarf. The different types of stars. So here's an event I was talking about with these stars, so we can see what it is. An exploration event was what I was looking for, is what it's called. But I'll let you read this generic space text essentially. But what we got was another 10 dust. So hey, we could go in and hire one of those heroes now. I'm not going to do that yet. But we could now that we have that money. And then you'll see we found Altair system, and it has 3 different planets on it, but red means that we can't colonize any of those planets, whereas our home system here, Dekel, has 5, and one of them is blue, which means it's been colonized. So that's cool. Then he probably has some movement points. He doesn't have any 0 out of 10 movement points left down there in the corner, but we'll queue up his next move over to this other red dwarf, and we'll kind of keep our colony ship in close, because we're not sure if there's going to be any pirates out there that might take it out initially. Yeah, we'll hit that. That's kind of our first move, and then this turns into a 1 because we have a colony ship that we haven't given orders yet, but we just want it to stay. So that's fine. We can now look at our system in Dekel. Let me just go ahead and do this because I'm kind of OCD, but I like to name the systems after states in the United States, because I can't keep track of random space worlds, and I was actually born in Indiana, so we'll name this one Indiana as our home system. Now, we talked about how one of the traits that I picked for the Cloud Empire was that on medium, small, and tiny, I think it was, I get 1 more population. So if you don't have that crowded planet trait, you would only get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, population goes into the number of resources you produce, and if you're not familiar with Endless Space, it's or Endless Legend, it's FIDS, which is food, the little corn icon, industry, the gears, dust, or I'm sorry, science, well, dust, FID, dust is like gold, and S, science, the little blue icon. So with these 3 population right now, the system is producing, this many resources basically, and you can see exactly how many are being produced up here. So there's some bonuses going on, obviously. We can zoom into the planet, and so a nominal output is like this planet is producing this much, so it gets 8 from the population, so apparently each population unit produces 8, but then 4 from the type, which is a Terran planet. So you can see +4 food per person on planet, +2, and it tells you, again, the pop-ups are pretty sweet. So we can pick an exploitation for this. Every planet you colonize can have an exploitation on it, and that's what this flashing thing is. It's basically telling us, hey, you can get some better resources out of this. So let's look and kind of see what we've got in the system generically. Arctic and barren, so this is kind of a colder system. I think food would be a problem. So initially, for a good growth rate, we'll just exploit food. And you can see we could buy it out, but we don't have 82 dust, so we can't do that yet. And otherwise it's going to take 5 turns to build it. So we'll go ahead and do that, kind of queue that guy up for us for our home system. So then you can see a little tiny blue bar will grow as that gets built, and then the 3 there means that there's 3 population in that system currently. And then as we explore more, we might find like a white or a gray dot in this next system, which would mean that there's a planet there that we can colonize, but we haven't yet. And then so in the 4X realm, we have started to explore. We've started to exploit by building some food exploitations, and then research is another one. That's not an X, don't get me wrong, but we do want to exploit more. So there's several different technology trees in Endless Space. The top one is like your military tree, and it's kind of a web, really, interconnected web. Over here is applied science kind of thing. So it would be like, for example, this one. It allows you to build improvements that give you more industry, and it unlocks Titanium-70, which is a strategic resource, and we'll talk more about that later. So I'm going to pick that one because I want to get my production going quickly to build ships and buildings. Down here would be your exploration tree, for lack of a better word. I can't remember exactly what they call it in the game. What this tree or this web's called, but basically these two allow you to colonize new planets, to build better engines. This is where that technology to go through wormholes is going to be, down here somewhere. I can't remember exactly where, but that's kind of your exploration option, and this is your diplomacy tree, for lack of a better word again. So like money, approval, buildings, this one allows you to do diplomatic interactions. So yeah, it's split up into 4 generic categories, and they're interconnected webs, and you can queue up different ones if you want by holding shift. So yeah, we'll do that first. And then finally, up here, this is your like empire management screen, very powerful, kind of all-inclusive screen. So right now we've just got the one system, Indiana, and it tells you our population, and then there's this little tick here that says, hey, 20%, so we're going to get another unit of population in 6 turns. And then approval overall, and then on this system, dust, we have 20, and we're making 8 per turn, and we're doing 9 research per turn. So we must be getting like a bonus because it's only showing an 8 output from here. It might be our tax rate, plus 0.8 from tax rate, so I bet it's just rounding that up. So check it out. If we scale our tax rate down, our happiness goes up, which makes sense, right? You don't want to pay taxes. So yep, but you'll see obviously your tax goes down. And if you go back far enough, you saw that the industry and food actually went up. So if you don't tax people, they're actually more productive. So we could get into the politics behind that, whether if you believe that or not. I don't really know for sure that it's an easy answer, but hey, that's how the game works. So we'll just look at it like that. So we've got enough dust to hire a hero. So I'm just going to put like 20. I don't know. Let's do 25% tax rate, because we don't need to make a bunch of money, because we don't really have much to spend it on initially, and everybody's really happy, and we're making a lot of food and production and science, so that seems good to me. And so earlier I said it was going to take 5 turns, so now it's down to 4 because we increased our production because people are happier. So cool. Empire factors, you can see in here some of the stuff that I picked is on this list, and then other things like as we explore and get dynamic benefits, you'll see those pop up in there. Trade routes, obviously we haven't met anybody, and we don't have any more than just the one planet, so no trade routes yet. But really powerful screen, really easy to use and understand, and there's even some system actions over here we can look at later in an AI, like if we had a huge empire, we could let the AI kind of run some of it for us. But that's kind of the first turn setup. And a first glance at how, and we'll hit more of these as we go, because there's still ship design and diplomacy stuff to look at, but I think I'm going to put a cut in here This will be our first episode, and kind of like stepping through the setup in the first turn. This is kind of how 4X usually works. It takes a long time to get into it and get set up. So I apologize for that. There's kind of a lack of action in the first turn, but it'll pick up definitely in the second part of the series. So thanks for sticking with me, guys. Hope you're having a good day, and until part 2 of this series, you guys fly safe and game on.